millions of years ago. Before humans appeared, before the first cities were built, before we came to understand the world beneath the ocean, there existed a creature that changed every rule of life itself. A predator with no rival, a gigantic creature created to dominate, Megalodon. Its name became a symbol of fear. Because this was not just a shark. This was one of the largest predators ever to exist on Earth. A creature that could grow longer than a bus, a body weighing dozens of tons. A set of jaws containing hundreds of razor-sharp teeth, capable of crushing enormous creatures beneath the sea. For millions of years, Megalodon stood at the very top of the food chain. It was not hunted. It did not run away. It did not compete with any other creature. The ocean belonged to it. But then, something strange happened. One of the most powerful creatures ever to exist disappeared. There was no final battle, no evidence of a confrontation between giant sea monsters, no sign that Megalodon was destroyed by a massive enemy. It simply vanished from history. Today, all that remains are gigantic teeth buried deep within ancient layers of rock, the final traces of a king who once ruled the oceans. So the biggest question remains. What killed Megalodon? How could a creature that was almost perfect become extinct? And the most astonishing possibility, could it have been the creatures smaller than itself that helped change its fate? One of the most notable theories involves a predator that we still know today, the great white shark. But to understand the downfall of Megalodon, we must return to the time when it was still the ruler of the oceans. Around 20 million years ago, Earth entered a period when the oceans became home to enormous creatures. The climate at that time was very different from today. Many seas were warmer, ecosystems flourished, food sources were abundant, and in that world, Megalodon began to appear. Unlike modern sharks, Megalodon was a gigantic hunting machine. Its body was designed for dominance. Every part of it served one single purpose: searching, attacking, destroying. An adult Megalodon could reach an estimated length of 15 to 18 meters. Some studies suggest that it could have weighed more than 50 tons. To imagine this size, picture a creature longer than a long-distance bus moving through the darkness of the ocean. But size was not the most terrifying thing. What made Megalodon a legend was its power. One of the clearest pieces of evidence proving Megalodon's existence is its teeth. Fossilized teeth have been discovered all around the world, from ancient seas to places that have become land today. This shows that Megalodon once appeared in many different oceans. These teeth were unlike ordinary shark teeth. They were larger, thicker, and stronger. Each tooth was shaped like a blade. Its razor-sharp edges allowed it to tear through the flesh of its prey. But what was truly remarkable was, Megalodon did not have just one set of teeth. Like modern shark species, it was capable of continuously replacing its teeth. If one tooth broke during a hunt, another one would replace it. It was like a weapons system that never stopped operating, a tooth-producing factory inside its own body. But Megalodon's true strength was not only in its teeth, it was in the way it hunted. Scientists believe that Megalodon could attack large prey using precise strategies. It did not simply rush forward and bite anywhere. A giant whale could have been the perfect target. Megalodon could attack the tail, the fins, or the vital areas that caused its prey to lose the ability to swim. After that, it only needed to wait. A large, wounded creature in the middle of the vast ocean had almost no chance of survival. At first glance, Megalodon seemed impossible to defeat. A creature of such enormous size should have been the ultimate winner. But nature follows a very special rule. Every advantage comes with a price. A massive body provides strength, but it also requires an enormous amount of energy. Megalodon could not survive by eating small prey. It needed gigantic meals. Whales, marine creatures, contain enough energy to sustain a body weighing dozens of tons. This made Megalodon dependent on its surroundings. If the ocean changed, if its food sources disappeared, even a giant could be in danger. And that was exactly what began to happen. Earth has never remained still. The climate has always changed. The oceans have always been in motion. The creatures that once ruled the world all had to face change. A few million years ago, global temperatures began to decline. Warm seas gradually became smaller. Ocean currents changed direction, and this transformation affected the entire marine ecosystem. The species that were capable of adapting, it would continue to survive. The species that depended too heavily on the old environment would begin to decline. Megalodon belonged to the second group. It had evolved to live in a warmer world, a world where giant prey appeared frequently. But as the oceans became colder, the world Megalodon needed began to disappear. For many years, scientists believed that climate change was the main reason Megalodon became extinct. But discoveries raised another question. Fossil evidence suggests that Megalodon's decline may have begun before its complete disappearance. That means there may not have been a single catastrophe, no moment when the entire species suddenly vanished. Instead, Megalodon may have lost a long-lasting battle, a silent battle, a battle that was not fought with powerful bites, but with the ability to survive, and its opponent was something it once underestimated, something smaller, faster, and better adapted. Throughout natural history, the dominant creatures are often not defeated by a greater force. Sometimes, they are defeated by small changes, a new environment, a new competitor, a more effective way of survival, and in the story of Megalodon, that competitor may have been a shark species, much smaller than itself, the great white shark. Today, the great white shark is considered one of the most terrifying predators in the ocean. But when Megalodon still existed, it was not the king. It was only a newcomer in a world filled with giants. Compared to Megalodon, the great white shark was much smaller. An adult great white shark usually only reaches a length of a few meters. It could not be compared to a creature nearly 18 meters long. If they were placed side by side, Megalodon would look like a gigantic monster, while the great white shark would appear like an ordinary predator. But nature does not only reward size, it rewards the ability to survive. And the great white shark possessed advantages that Megalodon did not have. One of the greatest strengths of the great white shark was its flexibility. Its smaller body allowed it to move faster. It could change direction more easily. It could react quickly to its prey. Meanwhile, Megalodon, despite being incredibly powerful, had a massive size that required much more energy. A burst of acceleration from Megalodon could have been extremely powerful, but it could not maintain that level of activity continuously. Like a gigantic machine, it had overwhelming power, but it required enormous amounts of fuel. The great white shark was different. It was more like a smaller machine, not as powerful, but far more energy efficient. And in a world where food sources were beginning to become scarce, this was an extremely important advantage. When people talk about Megalodon and the great white shark, many imagine a massive battle deep beneath the ocean. Two sharks are charging at each other, a war between the two strongest predators, but the reality may have been completely different. Because in nature, the stronger one does not always win by fighting. Sometimes, victory comes from forcing the opponent into conditions where it can no longer survive. The great white shark did not need to kill Megalodon. It only needed to compete more successfully. Every prey item is taken away. Every territory is occupied. Every food source reduced. All of these made survival more difficult for Megalodon. A giant monster could dominate when the ocean was vast and full of food. But when everything changed, it began to pay the price for its enormous size. The great white shark was not the only competitor. During the same period, many other shark species also began to thrive. Tiger sharks, mako sharks, Smaller predators, but extremely efficient. Each species had its own unique advantage. Tiger sharks could eat a wide variety of food. They were not overly dependent on a single type of prey. Mako sharks were famous for their speed. They could chase down fast-moving prey, and the great white shark had a balance between strength and adaptability. Meanwhile, Megalodon had only one path to survival. It needed large prey and suitable ocean environments and a stable ecosystem. But that world was disappearing. One of the most serious problems for Megalodon was its enormous energy requirement. A creature weighing dozens of tons needed an incredible amount of food. If a smaller shark could not find prey today, it could still survive. But an adult Megalodon may have needed a massive amount of food to maintain its body. When whales changed their habitats, when marine creatures migrated, when traditional hunting grounds disappeared, Megalodon began to struggle. It was still the strongest predator, but a powerful predator without enough food would not be able to survive for long. But perhaps the greatest problem for Megalodon was not the adults, it was the next generation. An adult Megalodon may have had almost no rivals, but a young Megalodon was completely different. They were smaller, weaker, more vulnerable to attacks, and most importantly, they needed a very long time to grow. In the natural world, a species can only survive if the next generation survives. If the young cannot grow up, the population will gradually decline. At first, no one might notice. A few fewer individuals, a few areas where they no longer appeared, but after thousands of generations, the decline became disappearance. While Megalodon was struggling, its most important prey was also changing. Whales, the giant creatures that were once Megalodon's main source of food, began adapting to the new world. As the climate became colder, many whale species moved to different oceans, places with more food, places better suited for their survival. This created a major problem. Megalodon lost a crucial source of energy. A predator designed to hunt whales was now facing an ocean where whales were no longer easy to find. And this was when the difference between Megalodon and smaller predators became clear. The great white shark could change. It could hunt many different types of prey, but Megalodon could not adapt easily. The ocean is not just water, it is a massive system. Temperature, currents, food sources, everything is connected. When one element changes, everything else changes as well. An ocean once filled with fish could become a place with very little food. A region that was once a paradise for whales could become empty, and a creature dependent on its old environment would have to pay the price. Megalodon did not fail because it was weak. It failed because the world it ruled no longer existed. For millions of years, Megalodon stood at the highest position. But nature never gives any creature an eternal throne. A new king can always appear. Not necessarily the larger one, not necessarily the stronger one, but the one better suited for the new era. The great white shark did not replace Megalodon through a battle. It replaced it through survival, through adaptation, through the ability to endure a changing world. And that may be the reason why a creature as massive as Megalodon eventually disappeared, after millions of years of dominance. The final traces of Megalodon vanished from the ocean. No more sounds of gigantic hunts, no more massive shadows beneath the deep waters. Only fossilized teeth remained, reminding us that a king once existed. But the story of Megalodon is not only a story of extinction, it is a story about a greater law of nature. That size does not guarantee victory. Strength does not guarantee survival, because in the longest battle on Earth, the ultimate winner will always be the one who can adapt, and perhaps it was the smaller creatures that rewrote the history of the entire ocean.